This is what I do. This is how I help my clients. And these are the results you're going to get. Hello. Welcome back to Higher Self and I. You are in for a treat today because this is a topic that comes up time and time again. And a lot of my one-to-ones at the moment are truly stepping into attracting a higher caliber of client. And I thought it was about time to talk about it on the podcast. And I really want to have a look at it today from two aspects. I want to have a look from attracting a higher caliber of client from a strategic and a mindset perspective. And I want to have a look at having a higher caliber client experience on the back end. And that is also from a mindset and a strategic point of view. Because when you are attracting a higher caliber of client, it's a lot of mindset. It is a hell of a lot of mindset. And there is so many beliefs that I see come up when my clients are fully wanting to step into that next level client or the next level way of doing things in their business. And a lot of beliefs come up such as like, what if I can't deliver? What if my experience isn't enough? What if I don't give them the breakthroughs that they need? What if, the experience makes them feel like I'm not this professional that I'm talking about that I am online? So many beliefs come up and it makes them feel and fall into the imposter, okay? And the pressure starts creeping in and the pressure to over-deliver starts creeping in, and then they feel like they have to give more because they're paying more or because they do more or because they're further along and, I can't attract that type of client because they're way ahead of me. All of these beliefs come in. So actually, when you are attracting a higher caliber of client, yes, there is very strategic things that we do when we work together one-to-one. However, a lot of it comes down to mindset. And I want to talk about that both today. So buckle in, grab your notepad because it's going to be a good one. Now, here's the truth. You have what it takes to attract and serve the clients that are high caliber. And you have what it takes to actually do it with excellence. And you know that. And I know that. And it's time that you step into that. Because the only thing holding you back is the pressure and the story and the belief that you are putting on yourself. That you are putting on yourself to constantly over-deliver, to constantly be more, to constantly be in Voxer more, I've got to be there all the time. I've got to reply to them within 3 seconds of them messaging me because they're paying more. Like, your story that you're creating around this is coming from you. Because I don't see any of my clients asking that of me. And the story that you create is stopping you from actually stepping into that. Because you're more than equipped, and you know you are. You're more than equipped to create the impact for the client that you're craving, to create the impact of the client that you're craving to support. And I really want you to let go of those unrealistic expectations today whilst you're listening to this podcast. Yes, we are going to do that. The expectations, the standards, the stories that you've placed on yourself, and just lean into the trust. Lean into the trust of the incredible expertise that you have, of the incredible knowledge that you have, of the incredible experiences that you've had, of the incredible ways that you've helped clients already, and really look actually how far you've come already. Like, look at the incredible results that you've got for your clients so far, because you're meant to serve at a higher level. You want to serve at a higher level. You're craving to serve at a higher level and take this next step in your business. And that really comes down to you and the story that you've created for yourself. So I just wanted to start with that little pep talk to get you ready to really go into it, because like I said, a lot of my clients come to me kind of ready. They're ready to serve at a higher level. They're ready to attract at a higher level. And they've maybe coached newer entrepreneurs or newer business owners or whatever that looks like for you. And you're just craving that more aligned client for where you're growing and how you've grown and how your business has grown, and actually utilize your work to its full potential, because the only thing that you're stopping is you, like, not serving these higher caliber of clients the way that they show up and the way they show up for you and your business and the things that you're teaching them. That's only coming from you. That's a story that's coming from you. So let's dive in, shall we? The first thing I want you to have a look at is, how do you show up for that type of person? Because it's very different and it feels quite scary. And I definitely went through this when I was letting go of Visibility Queen, when I was letting go of the content pieces that I was talking about, really when I shifted from the niche that I had before, the kind of content, visibility, talking about content all the time, and when I had and came back to the UK and I had the big shift where I really stepped into mindset, which I'd done for a very long time. I knew I was very good at. People knew me for it, they did, but I was more predominantly content. I was more predominantly showing up on Instagram. And I fell into that trap, and that's okay. I freaking loved it, and I still love it to this day, and I still do content and strategy and visibility with my clients, but I craved more of the mindset. And actually what I found is that the clients who are ready to do the mindset, who see the value in doing the mindset, were further along in their business. And that's okay. There is nothing wrong with that. Like, I was like that when I first started my business. I was like, right, I've got to get my content strategy sorted. Like, that's what I've got to do, when really, I wish I got my mindset sorted first. But by the by. So when I started to step into that, there was a real shift in how I was showing up. There was a real shift in how I showed up for the container. There was a real shift in how I stretched myself into the container. There was a real shift with that. But that came from me. And that came from how I showed up for me to who I then went on to attract. And that's where it has to begin. Because if you are really hoping and wishing and wanting to step into that next caliber of client, and that doesn't mean financial, like they're further financially along, that just might mean that they're more equipped with mindset. It might be that they're more equipped with whatever you're teaching. It doesn't have to be that you're speaking to people who make 2K and then now you're speaking to people who make 10K. Yes, it can be that way, but it can look other things than financial. But you really need to get clear on how you want to show up for that type of client. Because when we know that, that's when we can really start to tap into you growing as a person, as well as attracting the type of client that you want to attract. So just have a ponder right now. Have a look at have a bit of a reflection on how you're showing up right now. Have a bit of a think about who it is that you want to attract moving forwards. And really start to get clear, not only on how you show up for it, but how they show up for it. And this is really where it started for me. And this is I know I've already given you a first little point. We'll go into that a bit more, but this is the first place that I really want to start today, is actually how do you want your client to show up for you? What sort of things do they bring to the table? Are they organized? Are they on top of things? Do they reply back to your email? Do they pay your invoice on time? Do they bring in ideas? Do they bring solution-based problems to you? How do you want them to show up to your container? And this is where we really get to start to get clear on the person that you want to attract, because that's how we strategically talk to them in our messaging. So have a little think. Okay, if this new higher caliber client was in my container right now, or I was serving them, or they were my client, or I was consulting with them, whatever you do in whatever niche you're in, how are they showing up for me? Like I said, get really into the nooks and crannies behind the behavior of how they show up. Because I would hazard a guess that the reason why you want to move into a higher caliber of client is because you may or may not have had some nightmare clients. You may have had people who have really stretched your boundaries. You may have had people who haven't shown up the way that they said they would, or haven't shown up the way you wanted them to, or the way you thought they would. Now that's on them, but equally it's on you and how you show up to your container and how you show up to the energy that you want to bring and the client that you want to attract. So really get to know that person. Now this could be, and this is what I do with my clients, this could be a client that you've worked with before. It could be a client that you've had the most insane time with, that you freaking loved, that they showed up and they did the work and they took the action, and they may or may not have seen the results within your container, but they were there and they were passionate and they were, ready to learn and they were ready to grow, and they were constantly bringing you those solution-based problems. That's what I love within my containers. Like, I love it when my clients come to me in Voxer and go, right, Beck, right, this is how I'm feeling. This is what I think it is. Like, this is what I see happening. What are your thoughts around this? Rather than like, oh, it's not working. What could I do? Like, what else could I do? Oh, please help me. Like, that energy for me is draining. It's draining within my containers. So I love to attract, and I always attract clients who bring solutions for me. Like, I'm here to mentor you and to guide you, but equally it's your business. So I want you to show up with those solutions, or with the curiosity of the belief, or with the openness to know that things could be different. That's how I love to coach my clients. That's how I love to attract the clients that I attract. So really get clear on who that is for you. Reflect back on a client that you've had before that you loved. How did they show up for the container? How did they pay their invoices? How did they reply back to messages? How did they approach questions with you? How did they do the work? How did they move forwards? Really getting into the nooks and crannies, because then we make a list. So it brings it into your RAS. If you go back to the Reticular Activated System podcast that I did a couple of weeks ago, you're bringing that into your awareness to open the opportunity to the people that you want to bring in. If you haven't listened to that podcast, it was very, very good. I definitely suggest to do it. I'll pop it in the show notes. So really understanding how you want the person to show up, how you want the person to be, how you want that client to be moving forwards. That's your very, very first port of call. Because if you're sitting here saying, oh, I want to attract a higher caliber of client, okay, what for? What do you want that to look like? We're creating the path of least resistance for the subconscious mind for you to be very clear on who you do want, and probably clear on who you don't want as well. So really getting clear on that. And then what we do is we can then match your energy for you to show up. So asking yourself questions such as, how do I show up to this container? How do I bring myself to this question? How do I bring myself to this relationship? How are my boundaries? How am I looking after myself so I can hold this type of relationship? What does that look like? So how do I show up to the container? What characteristics do I have? Where am I at on my journey with them? And what boundaries do I hold for them? And then equally, how do they show up for the container? What characteristics do they have? Where are they on their journey? And what boundaries do they hold for themselves? Because attracting a higher caliber of client is not always about their level of transformation, but it's actually about attracting someone who is ready to take the action and someone who is ready to be pushed further. My clients crave for me to call them out on their bullshit because they can take it. They want that. That's why they're here. One of my clients, absolutely love you. You know exactly who I'm speaking about, and she's definitely going to be listening. But every time that I've called her out of a belief that's come up, she's like, oh my God, thank you. That is why I've hired you. She's in this such a growth mindset that allows her to be called out and go, yes, that's it. Rather than being called out and then giving me excuses of being called out. I don't want that, because that does nothing for me as a coach and that does nothing for you as a client. So it's that person who is ready to take action. It's that person who can be pushed further. It's that person who is open and ready, who doesn't mind being called out, who appreciates the higher level of conversation. That's who I like to attract. And as a coach or as a service provider, what this actually means, which is our next step, is having the bravery to step into that authority. Not just in your marketing, not just being behind the screen with your pictures, but in your role in the container. And that's where we start to have a look at the beliefs. And that's the next place that I move on to with my clients, because we have a look at who they want to attract and who you need to be. And usually, without a shadow of a doubt, that will bring up some beliefs. Who am I to step into this authority? They're further ahead than me. Like, I can't be speaking to them like that. All of these beliefs that come up. And actually, you need to be a match for your client, and you want to step into and be crystal clear around exactly what a higher caliber client means to you. It's going to look very different to what it means to me, because it's your story, it's your map of the world. So getting clear, step number one, getting clear on who that is for you. How does she or he show up? How do they show up for you, for the container, for their payments, for all of these things, like where are they on their journey? What boundaries do you need to hold with them? All of those questions, both from the client perspective and you as a coach or a service provider or a business owner, what does that look like? Then we step into the authority of that. So then it's having a look at the beliefs. Okay, what story do I have around the fact that I can't step into that? We know it's bullshit, right? We know it's a little story that came up a while back, ages of 0 to 7, that we might have to have a look at. And then you can start to break through, so you can step into the authority. You can be the leader that you're born to be, that you can take the action to attract that client and embrace your next level. And this is what I see with my one-to-one clients, because when you attract that higher caliber of client, not only does the financial aspect go out a little bit, like there's less pressure on the financial aspect, but the way that you enjoy your business is very, very different too. So say, for instance, the way that one of my 6-month clients did, and she was hitting around 2 to 3K months consistently before we worked together. We started working in January, and November, December, hitting 2 to 3K months. We started working in January, and this was one of the very first things that we did together. We shifted her product suite to fully step into that higher caliber of client. And that meant that it was a higher retainer package, that it was a higher recurring income, that it was a different type of business owner in a different place of their business. And boom, she was at 10K. But not only because we changed the strategy, but more so because she was like, I'm fucking here to speak to these people. These are the people that I want to have in my life and in my business. And I'm going to step into that, and I'm going to own that, and I'm going to be the authority around that. And we've had to do a lot of work on the authority, and we still do a lot of work on the authority now, putting in the boundaries, learning as we go. And this is what happens all the time with higher caliber of clients. When you're stepping into it, it's a different way of doing things, which means back end looks very different. Your client onboarding experience maybe looks different. The way that you hold the boundaries looks different. But you learn as you go. You take the lessons, and she's had lessons, like she's had hardships with speaking to a higher caliber of client, and that's okay, because we've worked through them in the container, and we've put new boundaries in, we've put an extra email in, and we've put clarity in one of the pieces in the contract. All of these things that have allowed her to feel the safety into stepping into that higher caliber of client. So that's kind of the mindset, looking at attracting, because it's all energy, attracting that higher caliber of client and stepping into the experience behind it. Strategically, the first thing that I spoke about is very strategic, knowing exactly who you want, because if you're not clear on that, then your marketing is definitely not going to be clear. Your positioning and your messaging is definitely not going to be clear. So make sure you're really, truly clear on who that is, who you are attracting, who is showing up, how they show up, what behaviors they have. Where are they? Where are they? They might be in different places to where your current clients are. And this is what I find a lot when my service provider clients start attracting a new type of higher caliber of client. The clients that they want to attract probably aren't scrolling on Instagram. They've probably got a team looking for them instead. It's a very different way of thinking and being, and strategically having a look at, okay, how do I now get in the room with these people? Where do I need to place myself for them to be? And really stepping into that from the energy, from the authority, and from fearing the fear and doing it anyway, and putting yourself in those places, but then equally making sure that your messaging and your positioning is really, truly talking to that. And that comes from the confidence. That comes from you standing as the authority, going, hey, this is what I do. This is how I help my clients. And these are the results you're going to get. That is the energy that you have to bring to attract the type of client that you want to attract, because they need that trust straight away. They need that trust. And if you're too busy playing in the, I'm not good enough, this is never going to happen for me, or what if no one signs with me? If you're playing into that belief, they ain't signing. You need to stand in your expertise. You need to be in the room. The authority piece is so huge when you're stepping into that higher caliber of client. Being in the right places, guest experting, those sort of places where you are seen as the expert, where you know what your unique selling point is and you fully hone in on that. You pick that one thing that people are going to go, oh, yeah, Becky does subconscious breakthrough. Oh, yeah, Becky will help you with your mindset. And getting really, really clear on growing that as your authority, growing that into the person that people refer you. A lot of my high ticket clients come from referrals of clients who have had incredible experiences because the trust is there. So really stepping into that, building that strong presence that comes with your brand, building that strong presence, showcasing your expertise, networking strategically in the places that they're going to be. That's where it's going to happen. Oh, I could talk so much on this. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I'll leave that there. But if you've enjoyed today's episode, please let me know. Please go away and start thinking about this. Maybe this is something new to you that you've only heard from me talking about on the podcast. Or maybe you've had in your head that you're ready to serve that next caliber of client. Like I said, doesn't have to be the transformation, doesn't have to be financial. It could be just the way that the client shows up for your container. And you're ready to let go of who you've been serving. That's okay. And just remember, we grow all the time. We're growing through our business, we're growing through ourselves. So you are going to naturally shift into serving different types of people. And that doesn't mean that you can't go back to that type of client that you've had before, or have a certain passive way of serving that client. But where you are really going to step into your authority and showcase your expertise and really step into that confidence and practice that and be that and have that, that is the energy that we want to bring. So I hope you found today's podcast helpful. I will see you on the next episode.